What's up, guys? This is CJ and Sarah from CJ's Keto Kitchen. It's Wednesday, and that means it's time for another keto conversation. So let's get this started.
Okay.
So this week I think this will be maybe a multi-part conversation.
A continuing conversation.
Yeah. We're going to talk about 5 keto myths.
Yes.
And we're going to kind of
try and debunk these.
Try to debunk these. You may have heard some of these before you started keto. You might get some of these thrown at you as your family or friends or co-workers find out that you're doing keto. Or this might be stuff that you thought about yourself. So this is in no particular order of importance.
Nope.
It's just 5 things that we're going to talk about today, and then we'll talk about some other things later. So the first one is that there's no science to support keto. So we're going to talk about that.
And that's definitely not true. Obviously, because we're debunking this myth. I think it's because the popularity of the ketogenic diet is in full swing right now. That a lot of people naturally assume that it's a fad diet or it's trendy, and I'm not saying it's not trendy, because it is kind of trendy right now because it's super popular, but
sure.
The ketogenic diet has actually been around since the 1920s.
Right.
And it was used to treat epilepsy and seizures, and it still is. It's still one of the first protocols that especially young children will be put on the ketogenic diet.
And so that is the ketogenic diet.
Right.
And from a medical standpoint, that is, as Sarah just said, it's still practiced and still used and has been since the 1920s.
Right. And I mean, low-carb diets have been popular since the late 1800s. People have known for a long time that when you get things like diabetes, that the first thing that you're supposed to do is cut out sugar and bread. But it's kind of fallen by the wayside in popularity simply because there's a pill for that. There's always a pill for that.
Yeah, there's always a pill. And I'll tell this story, you know. So I had a friend who had been diagnosed as having to be diabetic, and actually it was my ex-wife. And there was no conversation when we went in about we're going to put you on
metformin,
such a pill.
Right. I
remember when we left there, we left with a packet of information about food and eating and how we needed to change our diet. It had nothing to do with...
So that was in the 80s, 90s?
It was probably in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And so, but when I went in, and I was told that I was pre-diabetic or was diabetic, the first thing they wanted to do was put me on a pill.
They didn't mention anything about your diet. Yeah.
In fact, that's true. They never mentioned anything about my diet.
And maybe they just expect that a lot of people won't do that, aren't willing to change their diets, especially in the United States. But
yeah. So again, but the original point is that there's a myth that there's no science to support the keto diet, and actually a lot of science behind the diet itself. But then there's also ongoing research where there's a lot of studies being done, although there is some challenges of getting these types of studies.
Nobody wants to pay because there's no money in it.
Right. But there are doctors who are experimenting and using keto to treat all kinds of ailments.
Not just for weight loss.
Not just for weight loss, right. And so we've said this before, even on this channel, that, I guess we're kind of starting to look at keto as, yes, the weight loss is a benefit, but that is not the only benefit. And that's not why we have chosen to do it as a long-term
right. I mean, obviously
lifestyle.
For you, it was a reversal of your type 2 diabetes. Right. For me, I started it because I saw how well the ketogenic diet worked in helping my mother's cancer. So both of us started out with it not as a weight loss tool, but actually as a healing tool.
Right.
But it has turned into a weight loss tool and also helping with, metabolic syndrome.
Right.
So,
again, the myth that there's no science to support keto, that's all it is.
And if you want to hear lots of science, all you have to do is listen to to the Two Keto Dudes podcast, and Richard Morris will tell you all the science behind the ketogenic diet.
Yes.
So.
All right. So number 2, you go ahead and take.
Okay, so number 2, this particular myth came about when I went into the local drugstore, and I used to be on several prescriptions that I would have to pick up monthly. Well, that, since I've been on the ketogenic diet, that has all fallen by the wayside. I don't take any prescription drugs anymore. But the point was, I had gone in to get a prescription for my daughter, and the pharmacist who used to help me all the time didn't recognize me. She was shocked when she saw me because I had lost so much weight. And of course, people naturally want to know, how did you do it? What have you been doing? And so I was explaining it to her. And anytime that you mention low carb, high fat, or low carb, healthy fat, people definitely have an opinion about fat, of course. And for her, her concern was that, oh, I can't ever do that because I don't have a gallbladder. So then that led me to try and do some research on the myth that you cannot do the ketogenic diet if you don't have a gallbladder. And your gallbladder, its main purpose is that it stores bile, which dissolves the fat in your digestive system. And so when you eat, that bile is released. Well, your gallbladder is not the only organ that does that. Your liver can also do it. So people get concerned when they hear that the ketogenic diet is 75% fat, because for some reason, they figure they're going to have digestive issues. And of course, you can have digestive issues whether you have a gallbladder or not when you begin this type of lifestyle. Some people will have the keto flu, others will not. But the truth generally is, if you break it down in actual grams in what you are eating as far as fat, there's very little difference between the ketogenic diet and actual fat grams and the standard American diet. The only difference is the absence of carbs. And a lot of people who don't have a gallbladder find that a lot of their issues resolve because they're not combining the fats and the carbs together. So of course, we're not doctors. I am not suggesting that you do anything that you're not comfortable with or that you haven't checked with your physician for. But there are lots of people over several decades. Dr. Eric Westman talks about people without gallbladders. He's never had a patient have a problem when they don't have a gallbladder doing the ketogenic diet. So that's definitely a myth that we can debunk today.
And I'll go ahead and give a shout out to the Ketolicious Life channel, because I know when she first started her channel, she talked about issues with her gallbladder and the things that she had to do to deal with that doing keto. And she has gone on to lose 50, 60 pounds, whatever she's lost. And so we know that, there's examples even on YouTube of people who have either don't have gallbladders or have issues with their gallbladders.
Or other types of digestion.
And they're being successful with keto. So
and of course, there's all kinds of things you can do as far as enzymes and supplementation to support your gallbladder if you find that you initially have some trouble. And sometimes people who have a gallbladder might have digestive issues that their supplementation.
And like Sarah said, we're not doctors, so but we're just talking about some myths that are out there.
So you're not ruled out if you don't have a gallbladder necessarily.
The next myth is number 3. You can cheat. You can have cheat days on keto, and so I'll just start off saying that since we've been on keto, I think we cheated once. One time. And
we were on vacation in Canada, and it was our anniversary.
And we talked about it. It was on purpose. So we never have done this thing where you do keto for a while and then you cheat.
Well, and a lot of people, there are certain diet plans that people will follow that you have an automatic weekly cheat day.
Yes.
Where every Saturday.
When I did the Body for Life program, you had a cheat day.
And that was
every week.
Built into the diet.
It was built into the diet. It was built into the diet. And for that, because it was just pretty much a standard American diet as far as
maybe lower on the glycemic index,
as far as the carbs you were eating, and so it really wasn't that big of a deal to have a cheat day. Well, on keto, it actually is a bigger deal to have a cheat day because
it will throw you out of ketosis.
Right, because that's the whole point. The reason you're losing weight or having the benefits of keto is that you're in ketosis, and your body's producing ketones. And your body's using those ketones, and if you keep dinking around cheating, then you're going to get thrown out of ketosis, and then you're gonna have to. It'll take time for your body to get going again.
And that's
get
the
back
simple
into
math.
it.
Okay, say you have a cheat day every Saturday. Okay, then it takes you 5 days to get back into ketosis or however long it is for your personal body.
And everybody's body's different.
Then it's just in time for your next cheat day. So you're never winning because you're always behind. So you're not in ketosis because just by the time you would start to get back into it, you knock yourself out again by another cheat day. So neither one of us is saying you're never going to have another piece of birthday cake. You're never going to, have another donut or whatever it is your food. That's not realistic. There might come a time in your journey, especially if you want to make this a long-term lifestyle, that you're going to eat something that really matters to you. But having a habitual cheat day every week is not realistic on the ketogenic diet.
And, like Sarah just said, so we've adopted this as a lifestyle. But I know, darn well, eventually we're going to make a decision again that we're going to say, let's try whatever we're going to try. I took my daughter to Legoland, is that a year ago now?
In the summer, yeah.
And, I wasn't hoping that I could cheat, but I actually had, mentally, I had said, okay, if I find some kind of dessert here that is just so awesomely delicious
You've given yourself license.
then I'm going to give myself license to do it, and I know the next day that I'm going to be back on track. You know what? I didn't find anything. And I was actually a little bit disappointed, to be honest with you. But I had thought about it. It wasn't just me, kind of this willy-nilly thing where, because I'm making decisions about food and what I eat all the time. And especially when you first start keto, you're probably even more conscious about what you're eating because it's a new thing.
Well, and by the time you were at Legoland, you were fitting on all the rides. You didn't have any troubles fitting into an airplane seat. You had all of these positive benefits that you saw by sticking to the ketogenic diet that it's like, why?
Yeah, so I guess the point that we're trying to make with that myth is that
continuous cheat days, weekly cheat days are not realistic.
It's not beneficial to you. And if you're gonna do that, then I don't know. I'll just say if you're gonna have a weekly cheat days, you might as well just do Weight Watchers or something.
Something else.
Because you're kind of just spinning your wheels for no reason if you're trying to do keto. And I just said it. So anyway, all right. Number 4, fasting is required, or intermittent fasting is required as part of doing keto. And a lot of people, I've seen people like message boards on Facebook. I've seen that where people have kind of gotten that impression that you have to fast. Or
that they're synonymous.
That fasting and keto go hand in hand. And that's actually not true at all. That is a myth.
Yeah. I mean, if you get into ketosis and you're practicing the ketogenic lifestyle for your own personal body and it's working for you, most of the time, one of the perks of the ketogenic diet is that you're no longer hungry as often. So sometimes it can almost be a natural thing that you want to eat less or eat fewer meals because you're simply not hungry. Right. So that's where they get the, throwing the intermittent fasting in as part of the ketogenic lifestyle. And of course, a lot of people believe that with fasting, you achieve your results sooner or easier or whatever the case may be. But it is not exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right. And then I'll just say this as well. A lot of times, people who are doing keto will start looking at intermittent fasting when things start to slow down.
Right.
Or where you feel like you're...
To help you get over plateaus
you might be
or
over
stalls.
Plateau, or you might have stalled. And that's just... I'm just saying it because that's just true. A lot of times, people don't even think about intermittent fasting until things start to slow down. And then we start looking for other things because I think that's probably natural. Mm-hmm. You think, oh, geez, what am I doing wrong, or what's happened? Right. And you haven't done anything wrong. You're not doing anything different.
Right. A lot of times your body just has to resettle.
Right. A lot of times your body is just resetting because, geez, by the way, you lost 100 pounds. And
your body does not want you to lose a significant amount of weight. It gets concerned.
So the body says, hey, whoa, we need to slow this down a little bit, so we need to stop this for a bit.
Right.
And so, but fasting is not required to do keto. But again, you may, as you kind of read things and talk to people, you actually might find that some people think that that's just part of it.
Right.
Now, I'll add a little bit more to this, because last week we talked about how I still eat sometimes just out of habit, because it's time to eat. And if I really think about it, I know this week I've really been trying to focus on eating when I'm hungry. And if I really do that, if I eat when I'm hungry, I can intermittent fast easily. I can go, I can eat at night, 7, 8 o'clock, and I can go till, 11, 12 o'clock, no problem, because I'm full. And so, and so, again, intermittent fasting is not required to be successful with keto. If you
And there are
you want to
benefits
try it, yes.
to intermittent fasting
Yes, there
that
are.
don't involve weight loss, that don't involve, the ketogenic diet at all. I mean, there are people who fast and don't do the ketogenic diet. There are people who
That's
fast
true.
for religious reasons. They, give things up for Lent. They, whatever the case may be, and they still fast, and it has nothing to do with the ketogenic diet. So they do work well together for some people, but they're not mutually exclusive.
Right. And then our last point is, or the last myth that we're going to talk about, is that you can't do keto long term, that it's not a long term thing that you can do, or that you should do long term.
Right.
So, again, we've adopted keto as a lifestyle. And we actually do have conversations. In fact, we were talking about it this week. What do we do once we get to, I don't know what our magic number is, and we get down to whatever size we want to wear? What are we going to do? Are we going to keep doing it? Are we going to stop?
Right.
What's next? And so we talk about those things. But again, we have this long-term approach to keto, but we have also said that it's not just a diet for us to try to lose weight. We're looking at all the other health benefits. So for me personally, I was dealing with diabetes. That's gone. I was dealing with high blood pressure issues. That's been corrected. I was dealing with a lot of other...
And you realize if you were to go back to the way that you were living your life before, that those conditions could potentially return.
They'd come back.
Well, and realistically, inflammation is at the heart of every disease, every condition, not just your metabolic syndrome, but also your long-term conditions like diabetes, cancer, coronary artery disease, all of those. So why wouldn't you want to continue a lifestyle that keeps your inflammation low?
Right. And part of what we do, and the reason we started this channel, is to try to show people that you can live keto as a lifestyle.
Well, and once you get, don't you find this true? Once you get a certain amount of knowledge, you can't go back. You can't.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't. You can't go back. It's like, what sugar does to you. You know what bread does to you. You know these things.
That's true.
So, and you know how you feel when you're eating these foods. Maybe they taste good going in, but then you know how you feel. You know how your body feels. The tiredness, the soreness, the mental fog, the indigestion, upset, all the things that come along with eating those foods that you didn't realize were bothering you until you weren't eating them anymore. So it's like you can't. It's like once you find out there's no Santa Claus, you can't pretend.
There's no Santa Claus. I didn't know that.
I'm so sorry.
God, you just
I ruined it for you, didn't I?
Anyway, so that's a myth. We believe that keto can be a long-term lifestyle choice. It's
what I would like to have as my long-term lifestyle choice.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about this before. We've talked about what happens when we get to
whatever's magical for us individually.
Is for us. And this week we were even talking about, okay, well, maybe if we get to whatever the magical number is, or the magical size, then maybe it's just time to do a different phase of keto. So we still do keto, maybe we do more carnivore keto, and that's a whole different subject. Or maybe we do, okay, maybe now I start lifting weights more, and I'm trying to, I try to get all buff and, really lean, just to see
different phases
just to
keto.
see what that's like, and to experiment to see what it's like. I'm still doing keto, but I'm gonna keep going, and there's different phases to it. And so, but there's not a phase for us where we're saying,
That I don't want to do it
We're
anymore.
not going to do it. I'm going to start getting a box of Krispy Kreme donuts and start eating them every week. That ain't going to happen. So, because we know too much. We've seen too much. We've learned too much. And I can look at, it's interesting. I'll say this. I've subscribed to all kinds of channels on these YouTube. Food channels that have nothing to do with keto. And I look at people make dishes, and I can comment and say, "Oh, that looks delicious."
You haven't lost your appreciation for
I can
other types
still
of food.
appreciate other types of
Right.
food.
We watch Chopped.
I can
If it
still
looks good,
appreciate
cool.
a nice looking dessert that is poison to you, because that's really basically what it is. But I can still appreciate it, and I can appreciate the work that goes behind it. But I can't go back because I know that I know too much.
Right.
I know too much.
And you know what it's going to do in your body.
Right. Exactly.
In your personal body.
So, anyway, that's the first.
It's our first set of 5.
First set of 5, and next week we'll do another set of 5.
And if there's anything that you think that we should address or any myth you would like us to try and debunk, go ahead and leave it in the comments section for next time.
Good point. Yeah. If there's something that you want to hear about, let us know. So anyway, thanks for watching CJ's Keto Kitchen. Again, I'm CJ. This is Sarah.
Hi.
And we appreciate you being here. We do new recipes every Sunday. We do these keto conversation things on Wednesday. And
so please subscribe if you like our content, and hit the notification bell so that you'll know when we upload new content.
Yeah.
And come on back and we'll talk more about the keto lifestyle.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye. Peace.
Bye. Peace.